This is Samuel Presson for storytelling class at San Jose State University. Today we will be telling two stories of Roman mythology. The myth of Echo and Narcissus and the myth of Callisto. Myths often explain things that exist in the world today, like why the sun moves or why we have earthquakes. And the two stories today will be shedding some light on some possible reasons why we have things today, and directly from punishments from the goddess Juno, the wife of Jupiter. Echo was a beautiful nymph who loved to play in the forest and was admired by everybody. But she had one fault. She liked to talk way too much. And most of all, whether it was an argument or whether it was just plain talking to people, she always had to have the last word in any discussion. One day, Juno was walking through the forest, searching for her husband Jupiter. Jupiter, as it happened, was messing around with some of the other nymphs in the area. Echo came up with the idea to stall Juno by, what else? Talking to her. So she chatted Juno up, telling her all kinds of stories and just distracting Juno so that the other nymphs could hide and get away. It worked at the time, but Juno found out what had happened later, and she grew very angry with Echo. So she punished her. And she told Echo, "You will no longer have a tongue to speak, except in what you desire most of all, the last word. You will still have the last word in a conversation, but you will never be able to speak the first." Echo was punished to have to repeat the words that she had last heard. Ashamed of this, Echo ran away into the forest, hiding from others. But as she lived in the forest, she saw a beautiful young man named Narcissus. He had hair as yellow as gold and eyes as blue as the sky. A very unique thing in the time in that place. And she fell madly in love with Narcissus, as many a young nymph was prone to do. So she followed Narcissus around, and one day Narcissus became separated from his friends in the forest. And as he was walking along, Echo followed him and moved some leaves rustling around. Narcissus, looking around, said, "Who's here?" Echo, only being able to repeat the last words she heard, said, "Here." Narcissus thought it was probably his friends, maybe playing a joke on him or something. So he said, "Here I am, come." And Echo said, "I am come." And she came out to meet Narcissus. She tried to hug him and kiss him. Narcissus was taken aback by this. He was very confused. And he pushed Echo away and ran away. Echo was terribly saddened by this. She was even more ashamed now. And so she hid back in the caves and in mountains, trying to stay away from all contact with others. And so eventually her grief caused her to fade away until her body withered, her bones turned to stone, and all she had left was her voice. And even now, if anyone goes into the lonely places, she will still have the last word if you speak out, for she will repeat what you say and make a lonely place even lonelier still. But this was not the only time Narcissus had rejected anyone. In fact, it happened very often, for he was a very vain person. That meant he liked himself a lot. So he didn't really think very much of others. And so one of the young girls that he rejected prayed to the goddesses for vengeance upon him. And Juno did hear her prayer. And so she led Narcissus to a clear pond in the forest, one that had not been touched by anybody. No animals came to it to ripple its waters. No leaves floated on it. Protected by rocks and with a grassy bank, it sat there, secluded. Narcissus stooped to drink from the pool, and in the pool he saw his reflection. And he thought it was a beautiful water nymph, and he was amazed at her beauty, with flowing golden hair and piercing eyes. At once he fell in love, and he wanted more than anything else to be with her. And so he sat gazing into the pool. He even reached down to try to grab at her, but as soon as he reached his arm into the water, it rippled out, and she disappeared for a time, but then came right back. And so he stared at her, and stared at her, longing to be with this beautiful nymph who was really its reflection in the water. And so he stayed there, not eating, not sleeping, not even drinking, longing to feel, to have this beautiful reflection in the water as his own, until finally he wasted away and died. But now on the banks of rivers you can see the narcissus flower sprouting about and bending its gaze into the water. A white flower with a purple inside. Narcissus on the banks.